The Green Beret who shot himself seconds before his Tesla Cybertruck that he'd rented went up in a fire explosion outside of a Trump hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day. Apparently left behind some writings making very clear what his intention was with that act of politically motivated violence. He called it a wake-up call intended to free himself from the burden of the combat deaths that he carried. And along the way, he also called for an uprising similar to the insurrection on January 6th. He called for federal buildings to be seized and for Democrats to be removed from power, both in government and the military. He is a 37-year-old veteran named Matthew Livelsberger, who has obviously severe mental issues, apparently stemming from a combination of PTSD and a traumatic brain injury. And I thought it would just be fun, I guess, to delve into why he wanted to do this, because we don't often have as clearly articulated a motivation for an act of political violence. And I just thought, since the right is so focused on what happened in New Orleans and don't seem to have any interest in this one, maybe somebody should cover it, I guess. And so he said, try peaceful means first, but be prepared to fight to get the Dems out of the Fed government and military by any means necessary. They all must go, and a hard reset must occur for our country to avoid collapse. Fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves, a point that we will return to later on. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Fact check, no, it was a terrorist attack. Anyway, Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? And look, obviously a lot of us were very confused by the fact that he did this act of violence in an Elon Musk vehicle outside of a Trump building, but that is a new genre of political violence in our country. It's people doing acts of violence seemingly against the people they worship the most. Because in his writings, he urged the nation to rally around Donald Trump and Elon Musk and called for a negotiated settlement in Ukraine. For some reason, I guess he was in the military, and certainly that's a thing that Elon Musk has been pushing for, and Donald Trump, that Ukraine should just give up whatever it is that Russia wants so that we can end the conflict. He goes on to say, focus on strength and winning. Masculinity is good and men must be leaders. Echoing Elon Musk there, who said the government should only be staffed by men. Strength is a deterrent and fear is the product. Stop obsessing over diversity. We're all diverse and DEI is a cancer. Thankfully, we rejected the DEI candidate and will have a real president instead of Weekend at Bernie's. And I want to add just an extra layer of irony to what we've already had. He said, greed and gluttony has consumed us. The top 1% decided long ago they weren't going to bring everyone else with them. You are cattle to them, he said, as he advocated for you to support the billionaire president and the literal richest man in the world. Look, obviously he was a person who had severe mental difficulties. That is clear, so I don't know, maybe that's a product of it. But it's pretty clear what he thought. It's pretty clear who he supported. It's pretty clear from some of the specific references, the sort of media that he was consuming. And while we can't say that any one individual is singularly responsible for this, it seems to call for some critical self-analysis, which of course, Francesca, we are extremely unlikely to get any of.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like what didn't he touch on? Like what doesn't this event reveal about American society? And I just want to say, like, it's really important to remember that, like, to your point about why would he use a Cybertruck and in front of Trump Tower, even though he seems like he's pro-Trump, like, we look for coherence from folks who are clearly mentally ill and yes, commit terroristic crimes. So I think let's embrace the fact that they are not often coherent, that this person did have mental illness specifically related to PTSD. I am just sort of like, hanging on his words about saying why he killed himself, which is to sort of rid himself of like the memories of the people, of the lives that he took and also the lives that he saw, tamped out, I guess, his service members and fellow service members. And just like, let's remember how much the rates of suicide in the veteran community are just an epidemic that we don't talk about, that we don't have any real solutions for, other than stop sending them into senseless, pointless wars and sending them into harm's way to make fat cats even richer. And so I think that's really interesting, like his point. I guess I wanna pivot to talk about what scares me the most about his ideology. You have a lot of this like masculinity and strong men in charge and none of this DEI stuff. But then simultaneously you have that the 1%'s trying to pull the wool over our eyes. We have to band together. Everyone, he talks about like people, there's people not having hope and your children being addicted to screens, and like all this stuff. And I think this is actually really indicative of where a lot of people, what a lot of people feel. It's the reason that Bernie Sanders was so popular, explaining our lives as, a fight of the 99% against the 1%, something that Occupy Wall Street obviously coined, Bernie picked up, and the Democrats have completely left behind. And then he comes along Trump, a faux populist, to bring it up to the fore, except instead of saying that's why we need to raise the minimum wage, we need to strengthen unions, that's why we need a guarantee to housing, that's why we need, universal health care that addresses all kinds of, mental illness. It's no, that's why we need to get rid of the immigrants, the brown people, the women, the queers, right? Like that, like, you know what I mean, in their language. Like this is the danger with leaning into so-called right-wing populism, is that you are hook, line, and sinkering this anti-DEI, anti-woke, racist, let's call it what it is, racist ideology that is peddled by the likes of Donald Trump, of Josh Hawley, who's like, yeah, I'm pro-union, but we need to take down the trans flags. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, let's remember that there's a lane for progressives and leftists to take here. It's the Bernie lane without playing to their anti-woke ridiculous agenda, and centrists do it all the time, centrist Democrats, and sadly some people on the left.
100%, yeah, no, you're totally right. They are going to go for the person that they think takes their problems seriously. You can offer someone who actually does, or barring that, which is what the Democratic Party would prefer to not do, then they're gonna go for somebody pretending. That's what they're gonna do. And they're gonna do that over and over. And maybe sometimes the people who pretend do such a bad job that they're willing to gamble on another centrist for a cycle, which I guess is better than nothing. But maybe we could actually just give them what they want. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.